So today I am going to show how to create this quad easel card. So it does lay flat. If you're going to mail it, it's a 6x6 at these measurements, but you could obviously take the ratios and make it bigger or smaller to your liking. But the measurements I'm going to give today create a 6x6 card, and then when it's sort of lifted up, it looks like that, which is super fun, super cute, and that's what we are going to build today. It's a very simple card with really easy measurements. So, as I had stated, the base of the card is a 6x6. Then you are going to want to pick a pattern paper of your choosing, and you're going to want to cut it down to 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. And then just for a little extra layer, I have added a second piece of cardstock between that pattern and the white base. And for that one, I don't have an exact measurement. I just took my 5 3/4 by 5 3/4 inch piece of paper and glued it right onto another piece of cardstock. I chose black, and just tried to leave as thin of a border as I could around it. So I glued it right down, left as little as I could while still having it obviously visible. And then you're just going to trim that same sort of size border on either edge so that you have a nice even edge on all 4 sides as best as possible. And then you're just going to glue that onto the white base. So you now have, your base would be 3 layers of paper thick. You'd have the white if you want your base to be white, and then the black and the pattern. And then those 3 pieces of paper give you the base of your card. And that's what's going to be holding up these easels. So once you've created that, really we're just going to, it's like we can create one of these little elements, and then you're just going to repeat the steps 4 times, and then we'll glue them onto this card. So in order to create one of our 4 little easels, you need a rectangle of, I used cardstock. You could use pattern paper if you wanted to, but just you'd want it to be a thicker weight, like a heavier weight cardstock or pattern paper. And you want it to be 2.5 inches by 5 inches. And you're going to take that rectangle and you're just going to fold it in half. That is going to leave you with seemingly a 2.5 inch square. When it's folded up, it should be a 2.5 inch square. And then you open it up, it's that 2.5 by 5. Then you're going to take the top layer, and make sure when you're doing these, you do all of them the same direction. It doesn't really matter if you take the left or the right corner, and you're going to fold it in half. So I'll show you what I mean. You just take that top part and fold it in half, like on an angle. And then whether you folded the left corner down or the right corner down, on all 4 of your 2.5 by 5 inch rectangles, you're going to just make sure you pick the same corner. Whichever direction you went, go the same direction on all of them. But what direction that is doesn't matter. Once you have done that, you will need a 2.5 by 2.5 inch square. I've made them in the same color. You don't have to, but I did because I wanted it kind of to look cohesive, like one unit. You're going to apply glue only to the bottom half of this triangle. And you're going to glue your square right on top so it sits so it looks like one piece, like all the edges should line up, but there's no glue on this top part, so that when we pop it up, this still can separate. So there's only glue holding it on the front half. So I'll quickly do that and show you what that looks like. So I've just put glue only on that bottom part of the triangle. And then I take my square and I glue it flush on all 4 sides down, like that, so that it can pop up like that. Once we've done that, we have little 2.25 inch pattern paper squares. And the same thing, this step isn't necessary, but I just think it looks nice. I have added a second layer of cardstock to that, just to give it, a little extra element, a little bit more to it. So So I'm gonna take this square, glue it in as thin of a border as I can onto another piece of cardstock. So again, I don't have an exact measurement for what this cardstock size is going to be, but I'm just gluing my 2 1/4 inch square pattern paper onto cardstock and trimming as thin of a border as I can around it. Then once you've done that, you can glue it to the top of your square. Then you'll pick your second pattern paper at 2 1/4 inches also. Do the same thing with the cardstock and glue it to the inside square. So then now you're gonna have, you know, one on the outside and one on the inside. And you will repeat that 3 more times so that you have 4 of these little things, 4 of these little pop-up easels. And then we're just gonna glue them to our base. The only thing to keep in mind when gluing them down is the same thing. Once you pick a direction that, you know, one of these alligator mouths open, you will need to keep it consistent. So if this one opens this way, when you spin the card, you want it opening the same, like each one, no matter which direction it goes. This one here is always opening this way. So if you spin it, that one there is always opening this way, no matter which direction. You want them all the same. Does that make sense? And then the only other thing left to do is I've just cut like a piece of paper out, but if you have like little ephemera bits or something, like you need something popped up there so that when you lift this flap, there's something holding it in place. It has something to rest against. So I've just cut a little element out of paper and used a foam dot to stick it down in the outside corner where it's going to pop, just so that it has something when you lift it up to snag, to hold it in place. And you're going to do that same thing on all 4 because that's what holds them up when you open it. Does anybody have any questions? Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to stop the recording, but like feel free to keep creating and I'll answer any questions.